Hey everyone, Zaronce here with the newest chapter of my Frost Death Knight Battleground guide. Today we're going to talk about the different macros that I use and how I write them. It's not necessarily for you to just copy them and use them yourselves. I think that macros are really useful when they're personalized to each player's preferences, and so this is just hopefully going to give you an idea of how to write macros and create the macros that you want to use for your character. So that being said, this is kind of my baseline macro. This is to set my focus target. It's just a mouse over focus macro, and this is pretty much the script that you use for any mouse over macro. So just whatever my mouse over target is, I set that to my focus. So say that I don't have a focus, I'm smacking this guy, and I want that off target for my grip, so I set that macro. But that guy's obviously immune to grip, so it doesn't work. But moving right along. So the next one is my Frostwyrm's Fury macro, and this one's pretty much just all of my bursts, right? So it has my saltwater potion, it has my trinket. 14 is your second trinket slot, so it'll use this trinket. It pops my power rune weapon, pops my pillar, Frostwyrm's Fury, and then it casts Raised Dead. And the reason that I have Raised Dead mixed in there as well is because when you use Raised Dead immediately with Frostwyrm's Fury, your pet will stun your target soon after your Frostwyrm's Fury does. So Frostwyrm's Fury, you get the absolute 0 stun, and then your pet comes up and stuns them right after, right there. So ideally you would use your pet a little bit before your Frostwyrm's Fury to get that stun off, but it's good to have it inside that macro in case you forget. It can still be useful with that quick little interrupt. After that is my Abomination limb macro. This is very similar to my Frostwyrm's Fury macro. It pops everything except for Pillar of Frost. And the reason that I keep Empower Rune Weapon in my Bomb Limb macro, even though it's a shorter cooldown, is that Empower Rune Weapon lasts 20 seconds. And if you've seen my other guides, you know that I like to run a many. I like to run Lead by Example. That's a 20-second buff. So it lasts the exact same amount of time as Empower Rune Weapon. So I pop that before the fight, or as I'm going into the fight, and my whole 20-second opener, or 20 seconds of my opener, gets double buffed by Empower Rune Weapon plus Lead by Example. And then I also have it pop all of my standards, the Horde Battle Standard, this one right here. I find that some people still don't know that you can use this in rated Battlegrounds as well. So it's very important to have that macroed. And then I also have my guild banners and everything like that, just to create screen clutter, just to make it a little bit more difficult for the opposing team to target myself, target my totems, my team's totems or pets or anything. Just a little more ground clutter to kind of clog up their screen and make it more difficult for them to properly react. All right, and then next we have my Death Grip macro. It's just a standard focus grip macro. You can also set it to run on a shift or a mod, and so what that would look like is something like this: cast target focus, mod shift or mod alt or mod control, whatever, right? And it would just look like that. I run it like this just because it works for me and I've done it for so long. But if you are new to using this macro, I would probably run it on a mod instead of just on a baseline focus, because you have to remember to constantly rotate your focus, which is a little easier with the mouse over macro, but you can still forget sometimes. We also have my Icebound Fortitude macro. This just pops my defensives with my Icebound Fortitude, so if I have a Hellstone active, it'll pop that. If I'm in a regular battleground, I can pop my Potion of Defiance, and if that's not there, it pops my Third Wind, assuming none of those are on cooldown from Saltwaters as well. Something to keep in mind is that if you use Icebound Fortitude when you're stunned, it will just Icebound Fortitude to get you out of the stun. It won't immediately pop Hellstone or anything like that, so you would have to double click it in that situation. Potentially the most important one is the Lichborne macro. This is just to cast Lichborne and heal yourself, so we'll build up a little bit of runing power here. And as soon as you use that macro, it'll heal you in that same global, so it doesn't waste any globals, and then you can keep healing yourself. Something to keep in mind with that is it will instantly heal you. The second that you pop Lichborne, it'll instantly heal you because Lichborne is not on the global cooldown. So if you're trying to Lichborne preemptively, you could potentially waste runic power using this because it will instantly heal you, even if you're at full. Still an extremely useful macro. That's one that I think most high rated Death Knights use. Just spam heals on yourself, and yeah, it's really good. Now my pillar macro, this just has all of my burst CDs, use 14, remembers that trinket, pillar of frost and power rune weapon, and explosive decoy, that's just for ground clutter. It's kind of a useless pet, useless engineering trinket, doesn't really do anything, not really important. And then I have my talent macro. This is just a swap between asphyxiate and blinding sleet, so I don't have to swap anything on my bars. As soon as I pick asphyxiate, it's right there, and it's a focus macro for asphyxiate, so I don't really have to bother messing around with this spell or using anything, you know, moving any buttons around or anything like that. If I swap my talent, it automatically updates my spell. And then these last two are pretty much the same thing. It's just your standard cursor macro. So wherever your cursor is, it casts Death and Decay. Or you know, say your friend's in trouble, you want to put a zone on them. It just eliminates that extra half second for, you know, clicking the placement of a targeted reticule spell. And that's pretty much it as far as the actually useful macros that I use. This is just a banner macro to use all my banners. But other than that, that pretty much covers all the macros that I use for my Death Knight. As I said in the beginning, you know, I think macros are pretty personal for how you want to play your character and how you want to customize, you know, the interactions between your spells. But hopefully this guide helped you to, you know, just kind of understand how to write macros or what spells you want to stack within your macros. And yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to comment. If you enjoyed the video, please like and or subscribe. And if you want to see me play my Death Knight live, feel free to check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Zaronce, and hope to see you there. All right.